Okay, you know what? Stephen A., Max Kellerman, this is my attempt to let you guys know on a topic that you two go back and forth on. This is my attempt to try to convince you guys that I deserve to talk about this, and I want to stay away from that intro, but we're just going to go with it. So let me say this very, very clearly. I'm from Duluth, Minnesota. Born and bred Minnesota Vikings fan. The one thing that we know in Minnesota is we don't like the Green Bay Packers. And Stephen A. Smith, I want to be very clear about this. You, sir, are guilty of everybody else being guilty of the same thing. You, sir, come off every single week as talking about that bad man Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, as you like to call him. Mr. Bad Man himself. And you guys continue to talk about him on the show. You continue to bring up all these great things that he's done. Well, you know what? I live in Minnesota Vikings country, but we also got the Packers just across the way. I got many Packers fans and that happen to be my friends and close relatives. But let me make this very clear to you, Stephen A. Smith. Aaron Rodgers is just bad. He's just plain not good at what he does right now. Because the fact of the matter is that Aaron Rodgers has been awful when it comes to not just primetime, but just doing what he needs to do to be considered a top-flight quarterback. Here's the thing. You guys like to bring up LeBron James. You guys like to bring up LeBron James, and you like to talk about how he'll never be Michael Jordan, because Michael Jordan was 6-6 in the finals. Now, yes, that is something that we'll probably never see again in the history of sports in anything. But you guys over there at ESPN, everybody who ever talks about Aaron Rodgers, not everyone, I want to make this very clear, there are a couple people that have been honest about Aaron Rodgers, but nobody at ESPN likes to be honest about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, Rodgers, as you like to call him, this man has no leadership qualities. He is a man who is probably, and I'm going to go on record saying this, the greatest quarterback talent of all time. Talent. He's not Tom Brady. He's not even Brett Favre. Brett Favre at least could lead the guys. That's a man that you would follow in the battle. Go look at the commercial that he made with Clay Matthews for State Farm, I believe it was, where they're getting the fly and everything. When they're in that locker room, everybody going crazy, everybody jumping up and down. His face, he couldn't even fake a face. He couldn't even lie to America and say that he was excited. He is not excitable. He's a stat stuffer. That's all he is. Okay? You sit there and everybody at ESPN always comes up with the same excuses. All right? They come up with the exact same excuses. Aaron Rodgers has a bad offensive line. He has a suspect defense. He has no run game. You can't blame the wide receivers anymore, Stephen A. Smith. Nobody can, because the Stephen A. Smith that I know likes to look at the star. And you talk your basketball. Okay? You do. And 9 times out of 10, I'm with you, Stephen A. But that 10th time is always Aaron Rodgers. Because Aaron Rodgers is not, I repeat, is not compared the same way you guys compare every other superstar in any other sport. LeBron James, you say cannot be great because he's got 4 losses in the NBA Finals. Okay? 4 losses. 2 victories. Or 3 and 4. I apologize if I'm forgetting something. I apologize to Mr. LeBron James. I've always been a LeBron James fan. But you guys walk around ESPN acting like the same way every other Packer fan that I've talked to acts. You walk around like he walks on water and he's got 3 Super Bowls. He's got 1. And he hasn't even gotten to the game since he won it. 1 Super Bowl. He doesn't have 3. Okay? He's got 1. And everyone else walks around and says that Aaron Rodgers is the greatest quarterback in the league. But Aaron Rodgers does not win when it counts. He doesn't win when it counts. And you can't tell me it's an injury problem this year, because the Minnesota Vikings are proving that to be completely false, because they lost so much more than Green Bay has, and they are doing phenomenal. Okay? Aaron Rodgers is not a bad quarterback. He's an average quarterback, but he's on a team that is below average. He set the bar so high that right now that he's playing average, that he is an average flight quarterback, that he is not good enough to take that team where they need to go. Now, I don't know if it's the girlfriend. I don't know if it's Mike McCarthy play calling. But I do know that Aaron Rodgers is guilty of many things. And one of them is being a stat stuffer. He cares about stats. Why? Because he's following a guy who had all those stats. But he's trying not to get the interception record. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have fun playing football. He doesn't. Aaron Rodgers has fun being the MVP and being a stat stuffer. Jordy Nelson's back. Jordy Nelson is back in Green Bay. So what's wrong? Last year, that was the excuse that Jordy Nelson wasn't there because Randall Cobb is a number 2. He's not a number 1 wide receiver. He's a number 2. He will always be a number 2. He's a glorified, overpaid number 2. Jordy Nelson's the shiftiest guy in the NFL. And when Aaron Rodgers breaks out of the pocket because his offensive line is bad, I'm not going to say it's good. I'm not going to say that the offensive line is not a problem. But he doesn't trust anyone else on that team but Jordy Nelson. And when Jordy Nelson is finally getting covered by defenses who are figuring out what to do, cover Jordy Nelson when Rodgers breaks out of the pocket, he doesn't trust anybody else. That's Aaron Rodgers' problem. He's not a leader. No one on that team, I think, would follow Aaron Rodgers in a battle. I wouldn't. But yet you guys judge LeBron James on all this fact of how he loses in the finals. You guys judge other superstars and other things by how many rings they have. He's got 1. And yet you all walk around like he's the greatest quarterback in the history of the game. He's got 1 Super Bowl, 1 championship. Hasn't even made the big game. But you guys over there at ESPN do nothing but sing his praises as long as he makes the playoffs. But yet if he loses in the playoffs, last year he faced Washington. You want to tell me Washington? They were the consolation prize in the playoffs. They were there because they had to be. Nobody wanted Washington in the playoffs because they didn't deserve to be in the playoffs because they won in a crappy division last year. But you can't sit there and tell me that you guys judge Aaron Rodgers the same way that you judge everybody else. You cannot tell me that. And if you want to tell me that, then you know what? Put me on First Take. I'll debate the whole show and I'll outdo both of you. I'll do it live. I'll do it over via satellite. I don't care. But Stephen A. Smith, on this topic, this is the one topic you and I will never agree on because I refuse to make an excuse for a guy who is the problem in Green Bay. He's the talent, but it goes through him, and he refuses to acknowledge that. There you go.